Hello, readers, friends, and everyone else out there. It's Aaron, and welcome to another episode of One Row Reviews, where I talk about the books I've been reading and the books I've been writing for as long as it takes me to add one row to this project. Now, somebody asked me recently, how long is the project getting? And I actually don't know. I haven't measured it yet. So I have a little tape measure with me today, and when we're done adding this row, we're going to measure and we're going to see how long it is. So, this week I have read some pretty cool stuff. I did a graphic novel this week, so I actually added a new, you can see right here, I added this rainbow colored yarn, which is blue for most of that row, and then it kind of transitions into purple here towards the end. I figured that was a appropriate color for graphic novels. I'm trying to decide whether to do picture books in the same, like do graphic novels and picture books in the same color or do different colors for them. Let me know what you think I should do as far as that goes in the comments. But anyway, I read Radium Girls by Sci. I don't know if the author has a last name. They're credited just as Sci on the cover of the book. It's quite good. I was particularly interested to read it because I am playing a very small role in an upcoming production of the stage play version of Radium Girls. I'm going to be playing Dr. von Zashaki, the German scientist who invented the glow-in-the-dark radium paint. But that was the impetus for reading the graphic novel version, but it turned out to be really good. The art style took a little bit of getting used to at first, just because it's very different from what I've seen in graphic novels before. Very unique. I liked it, but it took me a minute to get used to it and figure out how certain things in the art were representing different things and so forth, which is true of like any graphic that you read. It's going to take you a minute to get used to the graphic artist's style and everything like that. So that's not like anything unusual. It's just an observation. It stood out to me a little bit more on this one, I guess, is what I'm saying. The medium was colored pencil on the artwork, which I really appreciated because that's one of my favorite mediums. When I'm doing visual art, I like to work in colored pencil. So that was a lot of fun to see like a professionally published graphic novel done in colored pencil. Really interesting to see the differences between how the story was told in the graphic novel versus the stage play. So much of what we know about the Radium Girls in that period of history is things from the newspaper and the mass media and stuff like that. So a lot of things about the Radium Girls themselves, the artists who tell these stories have to kind of infer some things. You know, there are some things that we know for sure and others that we don't. So always kind of interesting reading these historicals from that perspective. For anyone who doesn't know, the Radium Girls is the story of the women who painted the glow-in-the-dark watch dials that the soldiers used during World War I to be able to tell time out on the field. And the radium, of course, is highly radioactive and very poisonous, but they didn't really know that for a while, or at least it wasn't widely known for a while. And the women who were painting these brushes in the factory, they would lick the brushes to get the point. And so a lot of them ended up with some very terrible things happening in their jaws and stuff. And it was a lot of activism and battles in the courts needed to get them the compensation that was owed to them, and their story really what's the word I'm looking for? It really inspired a lot of the reform, like the labor reform and the workers' rights that we have today. A lot of it goes back to the Radium Girls. So really interesting story to read about. Definitely recommend. let's see, what are the other things that I read this week? I read a little bit more of Into the Beyond by Ariana August, right? Yes. And that one is the far future. I'm not sure if I would classify it as dystopian or post-apocalyptic. Um, I guess it's a little bit of both. It's one of those where there's like a city under a glass dome where they have really strict rules that they live by, and then some of the characters leave and some other characters leave to try and go find them. And then they discover things about the outside world, and now they're on this adventure. And at first, the adventure was okay, find our friends and get back under the dome. And now some of the characters are starting to question, do they even want to go back, as they learn more things about the outside world. It's getting a little more exciting as the book progresses. They just did a rescue mission for some people that they met for the first time outside the dome, which was pretty exciting stuff. When I last mentioned this book, I said I wasn't sure whether I was going to really like it or if it was just going to be okay. I'm about halfway through it. I'm still a little up in the air as to that, but I'm leaning more towards I'm really going to like it now. I think, there we go. I think it's definitely getting better as it goes along. So excited to see where it goes. I think it's cool story so far. Definitely recommend to... oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the book. There was a particular book, but if you're a fan of that book, I was going to recommend it for, but I can't recall what the name of that book was now. So I guess you'll just have to wonder if or until I remember what it is. But yeah, if you're like those kind of far future stories where people are going outside of their comfort zone and you're learning little tidbits about what happened to the world during our time that led them to here, things like that, Into the Beyond might interest you. The third book that I put some time towards this week, I did more reading on Wildmane by Todd Fahnestock. Just keeps getting better the further into the book I get. I think the two main point of view characters are going to meet before too much longer. They haven't actually talked to each other or been in the same place yet. But I think that's going to happen pretty soon, and I have a suspicion that things are really going to amp up once they do, because there's this mysterious figure who is definitely not a happy-go-lucky sort of mysterious figure, who has been saying very ominous things in little asides in between their chapters. I'm like, ooh, sparks are gonna fly when these two run up against this guy, whoever he is. So, very curious. I'm liking the writing style. It's flowing nicely. I'm still not 100% sure what the definition of, because I mentioned when I first mentioned this book, I believe I mentioned Todd Fahnestock's tagline for his author brand is epic fantasy without the boring parts. And so I was very curious in going into this book to see what is his definition of the boring parts. I haven't quite figured it out yet. I think I'll probably have to get fairly close to the end of the book to know, like, okay, what things do you typically see in epic fantasy that he left out this time? I'll let you know when I figure out what it is. But I figure it must be true, because so far it has not been boring. I have yet to encounter a part of it that is boring. So I think at least so far, as I've gotten into the book, he has succeeded in living up to his personal brand in that tagline. So good job, Todd. As for writing sessions this week, they've gone pretty well. I am really close to being past this one part and getting to, there's this part coming up, this big, like the big climactic battle scene that I've been like, oh, I guess I've been wanting to work on this for a while. And I've been just pining after being able to sit down and work on this. And I know some writers would just jump ahead and be like, oh yeah, that's where the fire is. I'm going to jump ahead and work on that now. I've tried to do that. It does not go well for me. When I try to jump ahead like that, every once in a long while I can make it work and then go back but yeah, it's just not a technique that tends to go well for me. So I don't do that. So I got to push through the stuff to get up to that. Oh, and I'm so close to being there. It's going to be awesome. Because I'm not going to lie, I really enjoy writing action scenes and battle scenes and stuff. And it's kind of interesting. A lot of times in fantasy, there's sort of this reluctance to admit that writing battle scenes is fun. You know, people will ask a question of a fantasy author about writing battle scenes. They'll be like, oh, well, yes, I've written a few of those in my time, and I guess they were pretty exciting, but ooh, look here, shiny character development. It's like we're kind of nervous to admit that writing the battle scenes is fun. Well, I'm just going to come out and say it. Writing the battle scenes is fun. I enjoy it. And this one is going to be awesome, and I'm really looking forward to it. And also, this row is done. So now we're going to measure, and we're going to see how long this project has actually gotten. So let's find out here. Oh. Probably work better if I use the right end of the tape measure. It is right at 6 inches. Right at 6 inches long. That's pretty cool. So, not bad for, how many weeks are we in there? We're 5 weeks into the year now? And I didn't start this like right at the beginning of the year. I think I was 1 or 2 weeks into the year when I started this project. So yeah, it's coming along at a pretty good clip. You can be excited to see what it looks like when it's done. But the journey is the important part. And that's what we're going on in One Row Reviews. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.